There have been renewed calls from different quarters on the need to restructure the country.
This call again received a boost after the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Adewale, called on President Muhammadu Buhari to restructure the country as soon as possible, warning that the country may secede if he fails to do so as soon as possible. Socio-cultural groups like Afenifere, Ahaneze Igbo, Pandef and others have lent their voices to the call for restructuring.
But the presidency in its reaction says it will not succumb to threats and undue pressure over the matter. They say such calls and threats are unpatriotic. Political analyst Adewale joins us now to talk more on this. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. Let's take some steps back to when we got independence in 1960. A lot of Nigerians say that not much was done by our founding fathers to ensure that unity, even as a foundation for the country to ride on.
That assertion is not correct. There were a lot of things that were done. I mean, that was the only period where Nigerians came together to determine their faith, even with the fact that a lot of things were not allowed to be as they had wanted it. But on a scale of 100, you will say that they achieved about 70 of how they wanted Nigeria to be.
Are you saying that those things that were not allowed hindered them from achieving it 100%?
The basic thing that was not allowed was that the British forced a leadership on Nigerians, so history tells us, and all of that. I mean, if a proper referendum was to be taken and a proper census was to be taken pre the elections that brought about the leadership in the first administration for Nigeria, it would have been a different thing entirely. But if you look at the regional structure, the way it operated, you will say that it was a leadership for Nigeria by Nigerians.
Because of the healthy competition amongst the region?
Aside from that, the people determined how they wanted to move at the speed their capability was able to take them. I mean, for instance, the first television in Africa was from the Southwest. We had television even before many countries in Europe, especially France. You understand? That was determined by Nigerians. The University of Ife, the way it came, it was debated, and I mean, things like that happened. Our economy grew under our hands, not under foreign influence. And remember the Anglo Defense Park and all of those things, when it wanted to come, the way the Nigerians students then resisted it. People like Tunji Otegbeye, Chief Henry Ajomale, and people like that. Those were Nigerian students that rejected it and saw that having a military base, a British military base in Nigeria, would have taken away our sovereignty.
But over time, we've had time to get our acts right. What happened?
I think it was after the Civil War. So after the Civil War, you had a military coming in who do not really understand how systems were built in a democratic fashion, and they were not well enlightened, they were not well educated, and they were not properly, looking towards having a Nigeria of our dream. What they were particular about was power of coercion, making sure that the country, does not break. That was their focus. And because of that, a lot of perfidy also happened. There were room for corruption, mass corruption, and all of that. And people like Muritala Mohammed saw it, of blessed memory. That was why he brought that anti-corruption crusade, to make sure that they stamp it down and take us back to a democratic system. But unfortunately, again, in 1979, we got it wrong. We got it wrong because there was perversion of the people's will, and the people's will was not meant to be. Then it cascaded, and we got to where we are.
Why, when we picked up democratically, why couldn't we, return to what we used to know? Because a lot of those who are in power then and even now were part of the systems that brought Nigeria to where it is today.
You can't suppress the people's will. Yes, we went into a democratic dispensation in '79, but the people's will was that was not the people's government. You understand? It wasn't the people's government, and looking at that, if you now narrow it to different enclaves, take for instance Lagos State, that perfected free education through Alhaji Lateef Jakonde, and also perfected infrastructural growth. Take it or leave it. You understand? You could see that areas where you have the people's will coming to be, there was growth. You understand? If you go to Old Bendel State, there was growth. You understand? And some part of the north too, there were growth. Agricultural growth and all of that. But once you placate the people's popular will, there will be agitation. And once there's agitation, that leadership will not be able to concentrate. So most of its concentration will be to be in power rather than develop the system.
So that is where we find ourselves now. But a lot of calls have come up now saying that we must look into the structure. But the president is saying that that is not the voice of the generality of Nigerians, but he will work with the National Assembly to address certain systemic issues.
I don't want to believe the president has said so. I don't want to.
That is a statement from the president.
I don't want to listen. I'll tell you the reason why now. I don't want to believe that he has said so personally, because he was involved.
So a statement will come out of the presidency without.
Let me land.
All right.
He was involved in the Pro-National Conference organization that was led by Chief Anthony Enahoro of blessed memories.
Okay.
Right? He believed that we should have a people's constitution. So if he's departing from that belief, I want to hear him say it.
Do we have the people's constitution?
We don't have the people's constitution.
So until
what we have is the military decree.
Until you hear him say that,
yes,
a statement from the presidency is not a reflection of
if
whatever
I hear
the
him say
president
that,
says.
then I will engage him.
Right.
Because I was part of PRONACO. I was the mobilization and liaison officer for PRONACO. I worked closely with Chief Anthony Enahoro and Dr. Bekora Somputi. And we came up with a draft constitution in which he attended our June 12, one of our June 12 anniversary program in the PRONACO. And he sent also some notes on how he wanted Nigeria to be. And Chief Enahoro had several meetings with him. Mr. Wale Okuni is still alive. So I would prefer to hear him say so. But for me, restructuring is just a subset of what we're calling for, is to have a true constitution for Nigerians in which the National Assembly are only going to be a stakeholder there at that summit.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Would you say the call for restructuring is unpatriotic according to the presidency?
The call is very patriotic, because it is Nigeria for Nigerians. And the political class must always remember that every 4 years, they come to renew their legitimacy in office. So if you're saying that the people's will is not patriotic, then it gives room for a very, very big question.
So why will a statement from the presidency come out to state that the people's will is unpatriotic?
I wouldn't know who wrote that statement, but I think that whoever that have written that statement did not take the right coinage to have phrased that statement.
Okay.
And I think in due time, the writer of that statement will have to apologize to the Nigerian people for that statement.
All right, let's look at restructuring in itself. It seems it means different things to different people. That's why there has been some level of agitation. Some zones, people are saying, let us restructure. Others are saying, that is not what we need now. If we are to really break down what restructuring is about, how would you define or look at restructuring that you see would bring that sense of unity that Nigerians are calling for?
Well, the English is very direct. We have a table that has been structured. If your table is undulating and it does not fit the purpose in which it was created, then you can rework the table or you restructure it using that language to fit the purpose in which it was created. Nigeria was created for our betterment, and if that purpose is not well achieved, the people can yet again say, let us rework the architecture of our governance.
And have that sense of belonging?
Definitely, definitely.
But that was what the federal character principle after the Civil War was brought in to address. What happened?
The federal character principle negates the people's sovereignty. Sovereignty in the sense that I should be able to determine my growth in accordance to my ability. You don't have to say, because of the fact that you want to equalize the system, that each segment or each part of the confederation must bring the same number for development. Now, let me take it very plainly with you. Take, for instance, each of these regions have their strength.
Right.
The West has strength in terms of academic development and what have you. Pardon me to use that analogy. The East has strength for industrialization, agriculture. Mm-hmm. West also have the same for agriculture. The North has more for agriculture and trade. Now, the reason why we came together is to put this strength together as a country and project ourselves to the world. But when we come in as a nucleus, we must develop our strength. So the federal character principle failed to understand that you cannot whip a horse that is not willing to go to a particular direction.
Right.
You understand? Even in the world, as it is right now, different world order, different world supernation have their different strength. Yes, America has strength in terms of military, some level of technological advancement. When you go to Asia now, their strength is mostly developed towards artificial intelligence and technology. It does not supersede that of America. But if America is still beclouded that they are the superpowers of the world, then they are living in a world of illusion. Now, if you take it down to Nigeria, similarly the same, and we also had a fault. If you look at the quota system, when it comes to enrollment into the tertiary institutions, they will tell you, particularly that once you are from the South, you must reach a particular benchmark of about 300. Yeah. When you go to the North, they take it down to about 150, 180. You are not helping that region to reach to the apex of their ability. Allow everybody compete. Who told you that we cannot produce people from the North that can get up to 400? The same thing during the secondary school thing. You find out that in the East, their benchmark is higher, particularly when you are from Anambra and Imo State in the common entrance. They will tell you until you score a certain number that you'll be admitted into the federal schools. So
these issues are some of the issues that need to be addressed.
Definitely.
If we really want to restructure.
Definitely. We do agree. We do agree that there are some parts of the country, because of the perennial situation they found themselves now, in terms of insecurity and what have you, they might be dragging back. That does not mean that if we remove all of these contradictions, that we will not allow them to compete favorably within the same system.
All right. All right, Comrade Ayodele Adewale, we thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you for having me.